Hi everyone, welcome to another webisode of The Good Doctor. Today I'm here with Dr. Faye Stringer, our women's health specialist from Health Bay Polyclinic. Welcome to the show, Doctor.
Thank you. Hello everybody.
So today's topic of conversation is stress, women, workplace, and how it all relates to each other. So when we're talking about women's health, Dr. Faye, what does that really mean?
So women's health is a branch of medicine really that focuses on all conditions or diseases that obviously affect a woman. I think you and I and probably a lot of people would immediately think, oh, women's health, that must be the body parts that women have and men don't. So yes, so certainly breast issues, health, gynecology problems and all things pregnancy and childbirth related does come under the women's health umbrella, but there are a lot more important issues.
There are, aren't they? So let's, in the interest of this video and in this webisode, let's talk about stress. How does stress affect women?
Okay, so stress can be quite normal and everybody has stress in their lives, and a little bit of stress can be very good in small doses. It's when that sort of stress takes over, which can be multifaceted. We all know stress can come from so many different sources, and what one person might find stressful, another person might quite enjoy. In terms of sort of how that impacts on us, the issue is when our body sort of experiences stress, we can release a couple of different hormones. One of those is adrenaline, another is something called cortisol. And initially that would give us sort of a temporary rise in energy. It can be helpful. It's our body's emergency response or our fight and flight response. And yes, so essential sort of body systems, you know, are working full power, but possibly to the detriment of other bodily systems. And it's these systems that might sort of manifest themselves as being health problems then.
And where do these sort of impact the female body? Is it exterior? Is it interior? There are, I guess, body parts that we won't see on the surface, but they will be affected by the stress, high stress level.
Yeah, absolutely. And we know already that certainly stress can affect women differently to men. And as Shah says, you know, visible and non-visible things. So in terms of systems, we could be looking at the gut, the gastrointestinal system. We could be looking at skin, hair, nails. Certainly with women, menstrual cycles, even fertility problems, immune system, a whole bunch of things. And not to forget mental health issues as well, of course.
Right. And if we wanted to talk about sort of one of these symptoms, what would be a predominant visible sign where a woman can say, look, okay, I am under stress, I need to go see a doctor, or I need to see a physician, or I need to take just better care of myself?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think visible is the key word. So certainly things that I would look out for, or anecdotally patients would come to me, ladies would come to me, and they would have sort of skin manifestations. They might have sort of acne breakouts, and they might have sort of stress rashes, for want of a better word, or an exacerbation of eczema or psoriasis.
What do they say? Like, give me a lotion so I can just put it on my skin?
Yeah.
And then, you know, obviously you know that it's not related to the skin, it has deeper roots.
Well, they may well already have a history of eczema, and I'm sure lots of ladies out there may well know that you have a history of acne or eczema or psoriasis, and when you have a stressful situation, you'll find that you get a breakout, you need to seek help, you need to use the lotions, the medications that work for you. And obviously, you know, if someone comes to see me, we take a deeper history, we chat, we find out if there's any triggers. So certainly skin is a big one. And general appearance, you know, if somebody's not sleeping, if they look unwell, if they've got dark bags under their eyes, you know, big physical signs.
What are some of the ways that, if you wanted to, and I know this is a general question, what are some of the ways that, well, if women are feeling stressed, what are some of the ways that they could overcome it?
I think importantly, we firstly need to say that it's recognising and realising that this is a problem. And these aren't normal levels of stress.
Right.
So it's identifying what the triggers are, what's going on, I need to do something about this. And it may well be that your partners, your husbands, your friends, you know, your social network have pointed things out, whether they can visibly see these signs or whether they can just tell that you're a lot different in yourself.
Right.
And sort of learning how to manage this stress, so taking control of your emotions.
We live in a pretty stressful time.
We do.
And we're busy, we're running around, we're at work hours are longer. these things affect the stress level.
I do.
Now, one of the things we also, especially for the younger ladies, does partying too hard also affect the stress level?
Well, certainly at this time of year, you know, getting lots of invites to parties and so on.
Right.
If we're already quite stressed, we're overworked, we've got a young family, we're taking on everything, we're saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
Saying yes to all of those party invites is not necessarily a good thing, and that certainly incorporates within the learning how to manage stress, really. So when to say no. You know, how to sort of prioritise one's time better, taking sort of a bit of me time, and certainly sort of partying hard. Not everybody would sort of be sort of go off the rails, as it were, but certainly we think of bad food, bad drink, we think of late nights, we think of lack of sleep, and sure, all of that ultimately is going to impact on somebody's emotional stress.
That's a great point, saying no to function after function after function.
Absolutely.
Because the body does need downtime.
Of course it does.
And it needs rest, and it needs recuperation, and it needs to be asleep.
Yeah.
What's the ideal amount of sleep time for a fit person?
Everybody's different. Important to say that. So somebody's body clock, they can exist on 5-6 hours of sleep a night. Other people need closer to 9 or 10. So there's this general thought sort of that as we get older we might need less sleep. Not necessarily true, but certainly in most literature that you would read, and if somebody said to me, I'd say most people would sort of probably do well on sort of 6 to 8 hours. Some people more, some people less, but we're talking about good quality sleep here.
Yeah.
We're talking about decent sleep, no frequent waking, no early morning.
You go
waking.
into REM. You fall into deep sleep. So these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about throughout the course of 2014, addressing women's health issues, talking about things that relate to women. And please, if you have questions for Dr. Faye, tweet us, post it on our Facebook page. Every month we will post a question on our Facebook page, and you can participate in that, and we will read those questions for the good doctor, and she will answer your questions.
Yeah, look forward to it.
Thank you, Dr. Faye, for being on this show.
Pleasure.
And thanks for watching eZeLiving.com, where you can find anything and everything lifestyle.